Melva. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you. Mayor Adams, thank you for being here. The last time the mayor was here, he was the keynote at an Abney Power Breakfast that we held on January 22nd, 2020. At the time, he was the Brooklyn Borough President, and we were at the Hilton in Midtown. It was the last in-person event Abney held before COVID entered our lives. I recall back then thinking that our hands were full with really big issues. But life seems to be all the more complicated now. It seems to be a more serious time and really a more intense time. But it can also be a transformative time, one of hope, of energy, of being part of our city's comeback, rebuilding what we had and making it better, not just for those of us in rooms like this, but for New Yorkers who haven't always benefited. That hope, that energy, the feeling that our city's best days are still ahead of us is personified by our mayor. And at Abney, we love that about him. He is authentic. He is unafraid to be himself, fearless for what he believes. That's one of the many things that makes him the right leader for this moment. It also makes him utterly fascinating to watch, and he is fascinating to watch. I'll tell you a quick story. A couple months ago, I was with the mayor and Chris Redd, who plays the mayor on SNL. So Chris lights up when he sees the mayor, and his first words out of Chris's mouth are like, "You are lifetime employment for me." And he says, Chris says, "I have spent years trying to find something funny about Barack Obama." And he's like, "Hard. But Eric Adams, every single day. Too much, actually." And Chris says, "Thank you so much for protecting my job. Exactly what I think my mayor should do." The mayor smiles the whole time, has a huge grin on his face. And you could tell he agreed, because part of his job is raising our spirits, helping us laugh even at ourselves. The joyfulness of our mayor, his optimism, is something we need at this time. He clearly enjoys this job, but at the same time, it would be a mistake not to understand just how serious he is. He has trained for this role as mayor with a lifetime of public service, and his commitment to New York runs deep. I do want to take a moment to recognize the other public servants in this room. We are grateful for what they do, and I ask you all to please hold your applause until the end. Borough Presidents Antonio Reynoso, Mark Levine, and Donovan Richards are here. Bronx DA Darcel Clark, Deputy Mayors Phil Banks, Lorraine Grillo, Maria Torres Springer, and Sheena Wright, and our City Planning Commissioner Chair, Dan Grodig. Thank you all for what you do every day. The plans then Borough President Adams talked about 2.5 years ago on this Abney stage, government working for the people, helping them, becoming more efficient and more effective, are no longer just the dreams of a candidate. They are part of the blueprint he is now executing as our mayor. We're thrilled he's here today to talk about real bread and butter Abney issues, jobs, economic development, and how his new administration is reinvigorating and accelerating our city's comeback. And it is a real comeback. We are up 90,000 private sector jobs since January. We've added back 700,000 of the 900,000 jobs we lost at the height of the pandemic. Tourism is recovering. Hotel occupancy hit nearly 90% last week. And Broadway is setting post-pandemic records week after week. The numbers are clearly moving in the right direction. But one thing I want to highlight from the mayor's economic development blueprint is that he makes clear that it's people at the center of his plans. Because while we must build and grow, in the end, it's not really about the places, it's about the people, supporting small businesses so they can grow, building housing so people can find places to live in the neighborhoods they've either grown up in, or neighborhoods they love, or so they can be near those places, and helping build businesses big and small for the future economy. We're excited to hear more about that vision today. But I want to say one last thing before the mayor takes the stage, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. He says it often, and he's right. There's no prosperity without peace. And his commitment and his tenacity and his focus on crime and public safety is so important to all of us and to our future. We know this will not be a quick fix, but we value the resources, attention, and his personal experience that he's been applying day in and day out on public safety. 2.5 years ago, I told a story that you all now have heard a lot, and it's the mayor's personal story about how he was the victim of abuse in the precinct of a basement when he was a teenager. The fact that he's taken that experience and is using it to, one, make us safer, but two, do it in a way that is compassionate and seeks to be fair, and making that a priority is something that is so important to all of us. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you. We are here to support you, and we're rooting for you, because when you succeed, our city succeeds. And apparently, so does Chris Redd. Ladies and gentlemen, our 110th mayor of the city of New York, Eric Adams.
You know, that's a good story about, you know, this smile and optimism. And where I got it from is, 22 years of watching mankind do some of the most horrific things in the city. And you will go to the average police officer at a terrible scene, a terrible place where violence took place. And the therapy was really to just figure out a way, just how do you have an optimistic view? Imagine every day going somewhere where you see a terrible encounter. My years of policing, no one called me to come to a birthday party. You called me when the party was shot up. No one called me when a baby was born. You called me when there was a domestic violence incident. And if you allow that to define you, those worst moments, then you would go home broken, unsure. You just had to find a way to find optimism. You had to find a way to just smile no matter what you were going through. But at the same time, public safety was a serious job. You had to make sure you did your job during those difficult mid-'80s, early '90s when we were living in a different city. So don't get it twisted. Don't get it mixed up. I'm going to smile. I'm going to enjoy our city nightlife and economy. I'm going to make sure that we do the right things, and you're going to see this optimistic energy. But this is a hard damn job. And not everybody can do it. Not everyone has the stomach to take this dysfunctional city in the right direction. I'm the right person to be the mayor of this city right now. I'm the right person to be the mayor. And so, Stephen, I thank you. I thank you for being a friend of the city. And as Stephen mentioned, I gave the keynote, the very last in-person Abney breakfast before the pandemic hit at our city. And I know this is a small crowd today, but it's good seeing you all. Much has changed since then, and it's good to be back here with all of you after 2 years. I want to thank Abney for supporting our city, not just for the last 2 years, but for all the decades leading up to now. 50 years ago, Abney was formed to help lift New York out of the fiscal crises of the 70s. It was just one of the many times our city was written off by naysayers. But New Yorkers will never give up on our city or each other. Over and over again, the city comes together and reinvents itself, booming, more innovative, and more resilient each time as we become stronger and stronger. And it is because of the spirit and commitment in this room. We need you again now. Your experience, your support, and your civic muscle. I like to talk about getting stuff done. But I never lose sight of the fact that it's always a team effort. Team New York. For the first 5 months of this administration, our administration, it has been going on the offense on our most pressing issues: public safety and economic recovery. Public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity. We're not safe. And making smarter capital investments in communities and lifting regulations that keep businesses from evolving and expanding. Imagine a local bakery in a residential neighborhood with lines out the door. The owners are eager to add more capacity and deliver to stores and markets. It would be great if they could expand into the vacant storefront next door. But under current rules, they would have to move their entire operation to a manufacturing district. We're going to change that no to a yes, and let this bakery keep growing their business in the neighborhood they started in. Think about the owner of a tapas bar that has live music on weekends and wants to set aside a small space for dancing, but finds that under city rules, it's not allowed. We're going to change that no to a yes and let the people dance. Likewise, in many neighborhoods, you can currently open a bike repair shop on one side of the street, but not on the other. We're going to change that no to a yes and make sure New Yorkers can get their bike fixed and back on the street. Saying yes will improve our streetscape, make doing business easier, and boost our economic recovery. This brings me to our second major effort: zero carbon zoning. Every New Yorker can see that our energy future is all about renewables. The technology and the resources are already here. Our job is to speed up installation, make it easier to invest, and show the globe what a city of the future looks like. This means changing our zoning rules so that we are not hindering the deployment of solar panels, battery storage, and other next-generation equipment. It's unimaginable to think about it. Right now, less than 1% of vehicles in our city are electric, and we want that number to increase. That means expanding EV charging rigs and fast charging stations. Imagine a developer who wants to include a public EV charging station in the base of a building, but is told no by the city because electric vehicles charging is not permitted in some commercial and all residential districts. We're going to change that no to a yes and make sure New Yorkers who want electric cars have a place to charge them. Now imagine a building owner who wants to install solar on their rooftop. Because of a web of city regulation, is limited to just 25% of roof area. We're going to change that no to a yes and make sure we're allowing New Yorkers to have in every possible option for sustainable energy. New rules that promote sustainability will support more than 61,000 energy efficiency jobs in our city. The jobs include installing more efficient appliances, improving lighting, insulation, and ventilation, as well as renewable heating and cooling. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to build out a pipeline. We're going to go into those communities that have been historically denied. We're going to give them the skills and training, because if they have a hammer in their hand, they won't have a gun in their hand, and they will believe they're part of the city as it grows. You can't build a city and watch the future of our children go down in the process. We will employ New Yorkers as we make our city more sustainable in the process. In addition to making our city more sustainable, we must make it more accessible. That brings us to our third major action: expanding our housing stock. There are many factors that contribute to our housing crisis, but one of the biggest is a failure to produce enough new housing to keep up with growing demand. The result has been skyrocketing prices that make it harder for many to afford to live in our city. We want New Yorkers to stay here, put down roots, and raise families. We want to continue welcoming immigrants and young people seeking opportunity. So we must have places for all kinds of New Yorkers at many different price points. We will soon be releasing a detailed housing blueprint, but today I want to focus on one key component of that plan: updating our zoning to boost the overall housing supply in our city. We're looking to change up the rules and allow a wider range of housing types and sizes to accommodate all kinds of households across the city. We will look to ease conversions of underutilized buildings, including vacant office space, that will allow new housing to be created without building from the ground up. We did it after 9/11. We rebuilt downtown here. We can continue to converting office space in the process. We're going to make it easier for owners of homes and small buildings to alter and update their property, whether it's adding a family room or an apartment. For example, let's think of a family that has lived in their home in Queens for 25, 30 years. They would like to convert their second floor into a rental unit to help them pay their mortgage. Unfortunately, our zoning regulations say that rental unit will require an additional parking space, and they have nowhere to put one. We're going to change that no to a yes and help that Queens family stay in their home. All throughout New York, there are places we could be developing and building. They're suited for people to live. But city zoning laws put artificial limits on the number of studio apartments per building, so those developments never get built. We're going to change that no to a yes and help a young person who moved to the greatest city on the globe, an older person stay in their city they grew up in, or a person who has experienced homelessness get permanent housing or supportive living space. The overarching goal: build more housing across the city and change the rules to enable it, starting now. That's what we mean when we talk about a city of yes. Our fourth major effort is all about neighborhood investment. We will work closely with communities to make investments in targeted land use changes in the next generations of borough centers that can bring good jobs closer to New Yorkers, creating housing and promote sustainability. Today, I'm pleased to announce that the Bronx will be first, and we will be jump-starting our work with communities and city councils around the future Bronx Metro North Station. We have 4 new Bronx Metro North stations slated to open in 2027. This is a once-in-a-century opportunity to improve transit access to the East Bronx and the entire region. Morris Park, the home of one of these future stations, is the biggest jobs hub in the Bronx, with thousands of high-paying jobs within a half-mile of the station, including places like Montefiore, Jacobi Medical Center, and Albert Einstein College of Medicine. MTA work on these stations starts this year, and we intend to work with Councilmember Velasquez and Farias and to reach out to community residents for ideas on improving the entire area around the station. We will continue to work with communities across the 5 boroughs and the City Council to plan for job opportunities, housing, and infrastructure. For example, along Atlantic Avenue in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, there's an area with outdated zoning, and we're already working with Councilmember Hudson and Osei and the entire City Council to develop a plan that would benefit a major swath of Brooklyn. We're also thinking differently about the capital budget. We want all of city government working collaboratively to invest in what New Yorkers want most, and in the communities with the greatest need. That's why we created the Seed Fund, to support capital projects that deliver the biggest bang for the buck. These are funds that are important, and they can be used to expand transit access or childcare, build libraries, or repair commercial corridors. And we'll be growing that initial investment in the years ahead. We are also going to embark on neighborhood-wide capital investment, not just where zoning has changed, but where we believe the investment will have the greatest impact. We're going to identify areas where we can expand housing and opportunity in every neighborhood and in every borough. We're going to make sure the city rises together. That's what the City of Yes is all about. And finally, we need to speed up city review of private applicants for new investments in our neighborhoods. We want to accelerate economic development by reducing administrative burdens. The Building and Land Use Approval Streamlining Task Force, or BLAST, we call it, will be a key component of this effort. I want to thank the Department of City Planning's Dan Granatnik and Edith Suchan for their great work on this. And I want to thank the leadership of the dozen city agencies involved. We don't expect to completely rework the city's charter mandated land use process, but we will strive to make it more user-friendly and seamless. Our agencies will learn to be better communicative actions with private applicants and understand that it is our job to encourage investment in New York City. That has been missing. Far too many agencies don't understand part of their mandate is to allow the city to grow and flourish. Don't start with no. Start with how do we get to yes? How do we build our city? We will not let a proposal to build new housing and create new jobs languish on a desktop or in an inbox. By eliminating unnecessary processes, we are going to deliver speedier reviews on the front end. We will also make improvements in community engagement, especially when it comes to community boards and elected officials. And we will speak with Speaker Adams and council members, Salamanca, Rowley, and Powers, to further develop these initiatives and incorporate their ideas for how to make the system work better for everyone. We're not going to say no when we can say yes and get more projects over the goal line for the benefit of our city. New Yorkers are going to wait around and see results, not this city. They're going to wait around while other cities watch us fail, not this city. This is a city of continuous and strong spirits, and we're going to move towards the future. We will be the pace setters, the early adopters, the city of yes. The naysaying and dysfunction has already slowed down far too many transformative investments. Everything cannot be a default no. Change is part of the city's DNA. That's why we need to say yes. Yes to the future, yes to our communities, yes to new businesses, and yes to new housing. Yes is the can-do spirit that has powered us through many different eras, each with its own culture, commerce, and character. From the Jazz Age to the digital revolution, from Harlem to Wall Street to Far Rockaway, this city has reinvented itself time and time again. It's happening again right now. Call it recovery, renewal, or vibe shift. It's undeniable, just like our city is undeniable. I can't wait to see the curtain continue to rise on the new New York, the greatest city in the world, the greatest place to be. I know the city, and I say it over and over again. We're not great because of our brick and mortar. We're not great because of our buildings, our subway system. We're not great because of Broadway. We're great because, as Snapple said, we're made up of the best stuff on earth. We're New Yorkers. Thank you for being a New Yorker.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Adams. Thank you. So the city of yes, that's what we love. And love to hear about all the transit-oriented development you talked about in the Bronx. I know we have Jano Lieber, head of the MTA here. I'm sure he was excited to hear about that. So take a few questions, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
We'll give the first question to Bill Rudin.
Good morning, Ms. Mayor, and congratulations and thank you. And yes, we are very excited that you are leading our city. How do we continue to recover and get back our city and attract the best and the brightest and the new companies that are changing literally all over the country and world to come here? How do we deal with, you talk about your bureaucracy, the taxes, obviously crime you're dealing with, but we need to remain competitive with Florida and Texas and other states that are attracting new businesses and new employees.
And you're right. We have a good product. We have not sold our product. We have not showed how good our product is. We have become a domestic thinking city with an international capacity. In the last few weeks, mayors from London, from other countries, from Atlanta, all across the globe, they come to New York. Yet we have become a domestic thinker. I need to produce a good product, then I need to go to other cities and sell our product. They are stealing our corporations, our people, and our ideas. It's time for me to go and steal their corporation, their people, and their ideas. Then we must do what I've stated over and over again. To get people back into the office, we must make sure our city is safe. That is why we're going to ensure the visible presence of our police officers, to have the omnipresence that's needed, and go after dangerous people who have determined they're going to make our city unsafe. To have the officers in the New York City Police Department remove 3,000 guns, to see a 30% decrease in shootings, 30% decrease in homicides, to see the approach that we are doing of cleaning up our streets with the encampments on our subway system and on our streets. This is what we need to show that this city's up and ready to operate and attract new talent to this city. And that's the goal, and that's what we're going to do. We are focused and we're disciplined, and the distraction is not going to get in our way to do the job we know New Yorkers deserve.
Other questions? Brian.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Brian Simon, Hollis Public Affairs. Really, like Steve said, rooting for your success, because when you succeed, the entire city succeeds. And a special shout out to my friend and mentor, Sid Davidoff, who's in the room, who taught me many lessons on City Hall and city government. When you talk about the economic recovery, one of the things that I think is inextricably linked to that is our education system and creating a pipeline for those opportunities for our kids within the city of New York. How are you going to continue to address mayoral control, and how can we help you achieve that important agenda item?
And that's a very important question, a statement you said at the beginning of your question, and I want everyone to sort of hear what was just stated. During the mid-80s and early 90s, when we were going through a difficult time, we all played on the same team. Everyone was on the same team. The stories you read in the paper was about recovery. Lawmakers were about recovery. We were all playing Team New York. And you said that if I succeed, we all succeed. That spirit is no longer there. And I'm not quite sure. It seems like there's a different reality. There are days that those of us who are here, we understand there's a crisis of guns in our city and country, but it appears as though every other aspect of the team is not aware of that. We know that our children had 2 years of real learning loss, and we need to give some stability, and that's why mayoral accountability is important. But it appears as though that there's some in Albany, some, that's not aware of that. We know we need to have economic recovery and building in our city, and having a good 485W or 421A or whatever you want to call it, so that we can continue to have building is crucial to deal with our housing stock. But it appears that some just don't know that. So it's time for us to stop squabbling and be part of the same team. We need mayoral accountability. We need it. We need it to stabilize a school system that's dysfunctional. How do you spend $38 billion a year on an educational system where 65% of black and brown children never reach proficiency in the city of New York? That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. And so I said it at the State of the State, darn it, if a Boston fan can get mayoral accountability, then damn it, that damn Yankee and Mets fan should be able to get it also. We deserve to have mayoral accountability. I want to be held accountable for turning around our school system. I want to be held accountable. But if you water it down, if you take away the tools that we need, if you don't give us the opportunity to do so, then we are failing our children again, and we're going to have another generation of children who are not prepared to fill the jobs and be able to deal with some of the crises that they're facing. We need to get this done, and we have good partners in Albany who are fighting hard for us, but there are some professional naysayers that I believe a small number of people there, we need to be clear on this, a small number, they're not on Team New York and getting things done. We have to get this done, and it's crucial. And we need your voices, we need your help to make sure that whomever represents you to reach out and say, let's give Chancellor Banks, his team, and the mayor of the city of New York mayoral accountability. I want to be held accountable for educating our children.
And talking about education, we have our CUNY Chancellor, Felix Matos Rodriguez, and we also have the president of Hunter College, Jennifer Rabb, here. Questions? Emma.
Thank you, Mayor Adams. You mentioned making changes to zoning, so I'm curious how we ensure we're meeting the needs of our local communities and listening to them while supporting growth for the city.
It's an important combination of building those partnerships, and we have to be honest, we've had areas of the city that were sacred cows, and we were not willing to upzone. That can't continue to happen. If we want to integrate our schools, then we need to integrate our neighborhoods. If we want to integrate access to healthy food, we have to integrate our neighborhoods. If we want to integrate access to health care and quality health care, not only improving our health in hospitals, but we have to integrate the neighborhoods where hospitals are located. It's imperative to engage in real conversations with our local residents, but we have to forge ahead, and it's imperative for our city council persons to be part of this conversation of going to our local community boards to get them engaged and partner with folks like Antonio Reynoso. He knows how important it is for affordable housing in Brooklyn. He has pushed for good zoning changes, smart zoning changes. Councilman Powers is here. We all know that housing is a crisis. And it's not always easy sitting down in community boards and local community residents to get them engaged. But housing New Yorkers is a citywide coordination. We can't continue to just upzone in certain parts of the city. Housing and upzoning must be something that is throughout this entire city. You can't say in one breath that we need to give housing to those who are living in encampments, and then the next breath you say, just don't build it on my block. No. If it's about housing our fellow New Yorkers who have fallen on hard times, it's about all of our blocks need to be part of that conversation in doing so to give the housing that is needed. And it's going to call on us to have real conversations about those communities and those areas that have historically have not participated in housing fellow New Yorkers.
One or two more questions, Mayor? Is that okay? We have time?
Yes.
1 or 2 more questions? Okay. Luz.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Luz Catholic Charities. First, as the wife of a retired officer, I'd like to thank you for your support of the NYPD. Second, as a human services leader, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about our workforce, I'm concerned about our budgets, I'm concerned about overregulation, and I'm concerned about the next catastrophic event that you will look to human services providers to support you. And we stand ready to do that, but we really need a commitment from your administration that you will be with us.
Yes, thank you for that. And first, thank your husband for his service, and all of us should participate in what I call the public relation campaign of uplifting our police. We're too silent. We need to have newspaper ads, commercials, PSAs, whatever we need to do to set the record straight that the overwhelming number of New Yorkers believe in public safety and believe in their police officers. Our officers are doing an unbelievable job, and we need to add our voices to that in a very public way. Sheena Wright, Deputy Mayor Wright, that came from United Way, is on our team, one of the 5 women that are my deputy mayors. And she understood from the beginning, in the 2 years that I was speaking with her about what we need to do with nonprofits and places like Catholic Charities and the amazing work that you're doing. We partnered with Brad Lander and looked at the entire payment for nonprofits. How do we streamline the nonprofits? How do we do a better job in assisting our nonprofits, because they fill the gap of services that cities, agencies often miss. And I believe that you're going to be pleased with the outcome of what we're doing. We're continually looking at how do we streamline to make sure that they're paid for the services and they receive the support that they need. We need a partnership and not the disjointed interactions that we've had in the past. And that is our goal to do. Between Deputy Mayor Wright and Deputy Mayor Lorraine Grillo and our entire team, we understand and appreciate the roles of nonprofits.
Thank you. We're going to get a question from this side of the room. But before we do, I just want to acknowledge we have the mayor from a city across the water, Steve from Jersey City. Go up. He's here from Jersey City. There he is. All right. Justin.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, and good luck with your new plan. My question is specifically on the real estate side, related to process. So I work with Greater Jamaica Development Corporation, and we had a construction project, was an interior renovation. Construction was completed in 7 months. Our fire alarm inspection took 11 months. So what are your plans to actually streamline process? Thank you.
And I heard this on the campaign trail, and anyone who has been at any of the events, you hear me talk about this often. You could build a hotel in the city, ready to hire HTC employees, ready to get business travelers. 70% of our hotel occupancy comes from business travelers, ready to get the doors open, and then you have to wait 2 years for a sprinkler inspection. It's unimaginable when I sit down and speak to restaurant owners and they tell me that after paying $25,000 a month in rent, finish building out their restaurant, and then you have to wait 2 to 3 years to get your utilities turned on or get the building inspections. Government has been in a way because there's no incentive not to get out of the way. We're judging our governmental agencies on the wrong things. I'm not going to judge FDNY on only how many fires you put out. I'm going to judge you on how many sprinkler inspections you were able to put in place in a period of time. So we're looking at that entire process, and we found some real issues on why there are some real impediments to getting you that sprinkler inspection. And so Acting Commissioner Kavanaugh is doing a full, complete analysis. She gave me a review on what was taking place and how do we incentivize and ensure that we're moving that system in the right way. Because you should not be impacted based on the failure of a governmental agency. That governmental agency should help you get your project completed, and that's the mindset. That's the city of yes that we talk about. Your question is right in line with what we are facing and what we're going to change in that whole process and other processes in our city on dealing with the problems that you're facing as business leaders.
Thank you. City of Yes. Mayor Adams, thank you so much. You have a tough job ahead of you. If anyone could do it, you could do it. You are the right one for the job. Thank you.